Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining the Business in Japan webinar. Tonight we've got three introductions and perhaps a word from our sponsor Teleworker. Starting with Robert Helt, who many of you already know from Custom Media, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the Connect platform. What drew me to the Connect platform is the fact that these are going to be tough times, if they're not already, for small to medium-sized business, especially in Japan and the world. And now might just be the time to look at community as a way to help overcome that, at the very least, letting people know that businesses exist, and perhaps more direct community help by community members, all working together to leverage each other's skills and to do business with people where necessary and where possible. And I like the idea of giving visibility to some of these businesses who want to put their hands up and say, hey, we'll offer some benefit for people giving us a go in these hard times, and we'll all get through this together. So it's a couple of minutes past 7. If anyone here doesn't know Business in Japan, Business in Japan's about a 12-year-old group on LinkedIn, one of the early ones. It's got 58,000 members worldwide. About a third or 35% are Japan-based members. We've kept it as free of spam as we can in that time. It's hard to keep out basic links there with no engagement, but we try to do our best, and hopefully LinkedIn are improving the group's platform to make it more of a viable platform for building and maintaining a community. But your involvement in that would be great. And let me introduce Robert Helt from Custom Media to talk about the Connect platform. Robert, are you in and can we hear you?
Yes. Hi. Good evening, Jason. Good evening, fellow BIJ community members. Welcome to the second webinar. Thank you, Jason and Teleworker Rohit, for hosting us. It's fantastic to see a good turnout today. I think we've got about 34 and counting, which is great. I wouldn't take too much of your time, but basically what I'm going to do is, for those of you who are new to Connect, give you an idea of what we're doing. For those of you who've seen the presentation before and know what we're doing, give you an update. So with that, what I'd like to do is share my screen and put together a couple of slides just to get you through what we're doing, and we'll take it off from there. Just a second. Let me know if you can see my screen and if you have any trouble with it.
No, it's fine.
I can see it, and you just hit present. Thank you.
Excellent. A little about Custom Media. We are an award-winning integrated creative agency. We cover all 4 domains of any agency: communications, design, publishing, and digital. Our key strengths is having all the talent under one roof, and we're able to provide seamless integrated marketing solutions. We're well known for publishing magazines. We do the magazines for the American, the British, and the Canadian Chambers of Commerce, and we work closely with the Tokyo American Club as well. So when COVID-19 started, and there was a lot of hesitation in the market, being in the advertising industry and being an advertising service provider, we're the first to feel the hit, because companies traditionally, whenever there's a crisis, the first thing they put on hold is advertising and marketing. So we thought, how can we help? And actually, advertising and marketing is very important, especially in times of crisis. And for smaller businesses who, as it is, have very small advertising budgets, we thought we should do something to help them. And so we launched Connect. So Connect is a digital marketplace offering free advertising to SMEs, entrepreneurs, and local businesses hard hit by the crisis. So just a timeline of what we've been doing since we launched the site on March 31st. Immediately afterwards, we launched our presence on social media, because social media is very important, especially Facebook and LinkedIn, to get the message out, to share our partner offers, and to let the community know what's available. We then asked feedback from our partners on April 10th. We took that feedback, and some of the feedback, very interestingly, was, put out a video, tell members what are you doing. So we published a video 5 days later, introducing the platform and why we launched the platform. We continued with asking feedback from members who are using the platform, and we took the feedback, and over a span of a couple of weeks, we updated the site, put into action the feedback we received, and published another video later informing members of what the changes we've made. Just to give you some background of the numbers so far, to date, we've got about 12,000 page views on the platform. It's less than 2 months since we've been going, so that's an average 6,000 page views, which is not bad for a site that we don't spend money advertising. It's purely community driven. About 1,000 plus, partner websites are getting traffic from Connect. So the offers on Connect get traffic to the partner websites, and we've got about 31 categories with over 63 offers available and new offers coming in. In fact, just today we put out another offer that came in. It's both B2B and B2C. There's no discrimination. There's all industries are welcome. All businesses are welcome, including businesses that compete with custom media that we are putting up there and promoting. So how do we listen to the member feedback? The very first thing most members said of our first platform was hard to navigate. So we designed and streamlined the layout, made it easier to browse, so it's easier to scroll. We saw that a lot of the traffic was coming on mobile phones and iPads, so we made it very user-friendly to browse on these devices. Another feedback was, it's hard to find what I'm looking for. Can I search for things? So we launched a search function, made it easier for members to search on the platform. And even more members wanted to see the offers grouped together. So we created tags, for example, coaching and training. So all the training and coaching services under one tag, B2B, easy to see, B2C, easy to see, and so on. So made it easier for further searching. Every week we send out a newsletter to about 9,000 members. We feature the latest offers, or the popular offers. We put the top 6 with, of course, links to them. Very easy to see what's on offer. Is it a free offer? Is it a discount? And then also inviting members to visit our website to see more offers, and of course to continue to give us feedback. We haven't stopped receiving feedback. This is a member initiative, a community initiative, so we are proactively receiving and implementing feedback. It's very easy to join the platform. If you go to the website, there's a subscribe button, become a Connect member, just put in your email address and you'll be automatically part of the platform. The next phase of the website, what we're planning to do is we are launching a section dedicated to NPOs and volunteers. Charities are even more hit. In good times, people hesitate to, volunteer. It takes a lot of time and effort and donate money. And there's lots of charities out there asking for donations. So it's really difficult for them. Custom Media, we support about 7 charities in Tokyo. And, so we thought, how can we help them? And the most thing they need at the moment is volunteers. So if some of you have free time, please look up what can you do to support these charities, with your time, with volunteer activities. And moving forward, we're also creating content, informative content. There's a lot of news about the Japanese subsidies from the government, but how to go about and navigate them, how to receive those subsidies and so on, is some of the content we'll be publishing on the platform. And of course, partner content as well. What are partners doing to get back to, some side of business normalcy, right? I know that partners want to share the information. What are the steps they're taking to open up for business? Just recently I received a newsletter from one of our partners, Tokyo Sinfonia. So the government's instructions is that big open spaces can only accept 50% of their normal capacity. So they are telling us what they're doing to reduce the capacity and to allow for more engagement with the community. So that kind of content is something we're looking to share with the community members. and just keep developing the site as we go. So in short, we're here to create impact in the community, offer compelling content and solutions that can deliver results. So with that, I'll thank you. Happy to take questions and hand it over back to Jason.
Thanks very much, Robert. Now, if anyone is joining on an iPhone or an iPad, or even any other tablet or phone, and you're having troubles with either seeing a presentation or hearing anything, or if later when you want to speak, at the moment you probably need to use the browser of the device. So if it's an iOS device, then Safari should work. If it's Android, then Chrome. It just seems it will work. And if you're having problems with anything, I just refreshed, and it fixed any problem. You got to accept the microphone and the camera. Thank you very much, Robert. That's a great website and a great initiative, and I can see it's grown substantially since when I first noticed it, and I've referred a few businesses to it. The next step of community, though, is involvement, and hopefully you guys will check out what's going on there, list there yourself if you're in business, and see if there's any offers there that you want to take advantage of, or know someone who would. So without further ado, both David's suite and Rick's story are online. Perhaps we'll start with Greg, if you're there.
Yes, I'm definitely here. I'm just trying to work. There we go. Camera's up a little bit. See me in a box there in the top right-hand corner. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you, Jason, for organising this, and great job, Robert, what you've been doing with your innovation. Really appreciate that. David and I are going to talk about selling tonight. So I'm going to lead off, and then David will come in, and then we'll have some questions at the end. So let's see if we can get this tech to work here. Maybe. Let's see. Not working. Okay, not working. I need this to work. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Jason, can you see my screen?
No, we can't.
You can't see it? Okay, what's the problem?
Can't see it.
So you gotta click the icon on the left side.
Let me try again. Okay, we'll try and get up here. So there it is there. It was there. No, not my entire window. I want the application. I want the Chrome tag. No, it's not coming up in the applications.
You may want to share your entire desktop.
Yeah, that doesn't work too well, I found.
No, it actually works. We can see it now. So you can
see it now?
Yes.
You can see it? Okay, everyone got it?
Yeah, so you can start your presentation.
Okay, all right, great, good.
We can see, your whole.
Yeah, Jason asked me for some sort of takeaways, and so I thought, well, okay, what are some problems we have? What are some issues we have as salespeople? So I thought, why don't I try and work through some of those? So we'll just keep going. So I'm the president of Dale Carnegie Training Japan. We're a global organization. We're experts in soft skills training. And obviously one of those very important soft skills is sales. And we've been around for a long time.
So David, sorry to interject, but I think we're seeing your screen, not your presentation. So you want to bring your presentation to the front of your screen.
Okay, let me try again.
You may want to.
There we go. Now we should be able to see it. There we go. How's that?
Yes, this is better. Go ahead now.
Okay, good. So we do soft skills. We're a 108-year-old organization. Been in Japan for a long time, 57 years. I've been in Japan 35 years altogether. And we pretty much everywhere your company is located in the world, we're probably there too. We're quite a well-placed organization. Some famous graduates: Warren Buffett, most famous investor of all time; Ronald Reagan, previous president. One of my favorites on the right-hand side there, Chuck Norris. He's a graduate. And in Japan, the current president, Shiseido, and previous chairman of Google, Murakami-san, both graduates. We have these books in Japanese, which are very famous in English: How to Influence and Influence People, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Sold over 9 million copies in Japan. Dale Carnegie himself is the classic rags to riches success story out of America. Poor farming family, became very well established in the sales career, tried to become an actor, found that was very hard to sustain as a life, and then got into public speaking, started his own company. 24 years later, after a lot of research, published How to Influence People, global bestseller, still a bestseller. And he's been to Japan 4 times, 1932, came twice in 39, and then came back in 1953. And then we opened in Japan 10 years later in 1963. So everyone loves free. So these are some free resources to help you. I do a number of podcasts. I do one on selling in Japan called the Sales Japan Series podcast. That's weekly. There's 187 episodes of that. If you're interested in presentation skills and sales, obviously presentation skills are very important. There's 187 episodes of that one. And then I've got 360 episodes, weekly episodes on leadership. You get all these on iTunes. Also, I do a combination of video and also podcasts. So the Cutting Edge Japan Business Show comes out once a week on YouTube and also as a podcast. That's 134 episodes of that. The Japan Business Mastery comes out as a video program and also as a podcast. 34 episodes of that. And breaking news, scoop tonight, on the 6th of June, I'm going to launch a new video and podcast site called Japan's Top Business Interviews, which I interview the top business leaders in Japan. So for those who are a bit more serious about selling, Eurobiz very kindly put my handsome face here on the cover of their magazine with this title, which I never expected, Sales Master. I thought, well, that's very nice publicity, because I wrote this book. And David's written his books on selling. This is my book on selling. It's for Japan. It's specifically for how to sell in Japan. It is a how-to book. So if that's the sort of thing that might help you, you might want to look at that. Subsequently found after I wrote my first book that there was a big gap in the market for just general business information on how to do business in Japan, not Meiji Exchange and business card exchange and that type of stuff, or where to sit in the room, something a bit more high level. So I wrote this second book called Japan Business Mastery. If that's something that is helpful, then you might have a look at that. So let's talk about 10 of the real things that people get wrong in selling, and we should try to avoid these. So here we go. Number 1, the wrong sales focus. What does this mean? I need commission. I need sales. I'm not getting any money. I'm not making anything. And you're focused on you. So when you're having the conversation with a client, it's all about your interests. Except the client's not interested in your interests. The client's interested in their interests. So if they can hear from you that your focus is on their success, they're more prepared to listen to what you say. There's a Japanese word called kokoro gamai, and I refer to this in my book, Japan Sales Mastery, which is how you have your true intentions about what you're doing. Are your true intentions to make the client's company succeed? And wrapped up inside their success is your success in there, or is it all about your success? If you've got the right true intentions, the correct kokoro gamai, the client will feel it, and they'll be more inclined to trust you and to try your company if it's a new business for them, give you a chance. If they feel it's all about you, they might be reluctant, maybe hesitant. They may feel, I don't think I can really trust this fast-talking salesperson trying to get their hand in my pocket, get hold of my money. I'm not going to do anything with these people. The second thing we've got to look at is we're not compelling to talk to. When we're reaching out to clients today, it's going to be more likely to be by phone or email. What we're saying in the initial stages is not interesting enough for them to want to listen. We are not framing the conversation in a way that they think, okay, this sounds good. I think this sounds like what we need. That means the design of how we open up the conversations is missing something. And one of the worst I hear this a lot. Hello, is that Dr. Greg Story? Yes, it's Greg Story here. How are you today? That has got to be one of the worst openings. But so many salespeople use it. Instead of saying something more intelligent around how they can help this client. Thank you, Mr. Client. Have you got a couple of minutes to speak today? I just have something I think I'd like to share with you, might be helpful to your company. We've found this has been very successful with our other clients. It may be something that help you. I'd like to take a chance and give you an idea of what it can do for you, because it's certainly worked for others. Would you have a couple of minutes to talk to me? So in opening up like that, it sounds like it's worked for others. It's only a couple of minutes. It might be something, perhaps not sure, that they could be interested in. So this is a lot easier to agree to listen to someone if you're designing something that's easy to say yes to. And as we get into the conversation, salespeople often make the big mistake, particularly dealing with Japanese buyers. And even now in COVID-19, where people are very stressed out and, people are worried about their cash flow and worried about company survival and worried about how business is going, you start going straight into your pitch and you haven't asked to be able to ask questions to know what to pitch to. If I just start pitching, how on earth do I know what I'm pitching is going to suit what you, the buyer, need? I'll never know that. I need to know what you are requiring, what are your needs, and then I'll design my pitch along those lines. But I can't just start pitching, or I can't just start asking questions. I've got to get your permission, particularly Japanese buyers. I've got to ask you, Mr. Client, we're in the soft skills training business. We particularly do things like leadership and sales. Now, I'm not sure if we've got something that would help you in the sales area. We've got a very broad curriculum. We've seen it very successful with our companies. I'm not sure if it worked for you, but if you wouldn't mind, could I ask you a few questions so I can really narrow down and know if what we have is the most suitable for you? So you ask a question like that, which says, please allow me to ask you questions so I can better understand whether what we have is a match for you or not. And once you get that permission to ask questions, then you're not going to get pushback from the client when you do start digging in and asking questions. And as I say, pitching is not really selling. It's just you talking all the time. If your favorite color is blue and all I talk about is our green range, you're going to be thinking, I'm not really interested in green. I'd like to know about blue. But this guy just keeps talking about green. So it's not going to work. But if I ask you, what's your favorite color? And you say, well, my favorite color is blue. I wouldn't talk about green. I'd only talk about our blue range. But just pitching green all the time, I'm never going to know that. And then you're not going to buy it. But you've got to ask the questions, and you've got to get permission to ask the questions to enable you to find out if what you've got is going to be a match for what the client needs. And also, you've got to create a sense of urgency to act. Yes, they may have a need, okay, but they may not feel any urgency to take up any action today. I would do it next year. I would do it the year after. They are in a position with their company today. They have a position in the future, at some point in the future, in the near future, where they want to be. There's a gap between where they are and where they want to be. We call it the as is and the should be. Right? In that gap, we have to create a sense of urgency. Otherwise, they're not going to take any action. If that gap feels too close, they can probably think, you know what? We can do it ourselves. We don't need any outside help. We can do it ourselves. So that gap has got to be made to feel big enough that you are the solution to fix their problem, that they can't do it by themselves. And also, you've got to create a sense of opportunity cost of not taking action now. They are not the only ones in business, in their sector. They are not the only ones in the industry. They have competitors. Their competitors are active too. We've got to create a sense that if they don't act now, it could be an advantage to their competitors for them not to take action now. So you've got to create that sense of, yes, we can't do it by ourselves. We need help. And yes, we need to do it now. So if we don't have those two things happening, it's going to be very hard to move the sale along. And number 6, well, most salespeople do a pretty poor job of listening. Now, they tend to be in the ignore category of listening or the selective category of listening. When I say ignore, you say, no, I don't ignore the client. I listen to them. Really? When they are talking, your brain can often be in overdrive, thinking about what you're going to say. And while you're thinking about something they've said and how you're going to say something about what you've got to match that and talk about how that's not a problem, you suddenly stop listening. you've just stopped listening, because now you've got your own conversation going on in your head, and you're not really listening for the nuance of what the client's saying, what they're not saying, which is even more important. So when we think about that, particularly in this period of time where clients are also under a lot of stress, we've got to really sense what is the real issue for them. And they may not tell us the issue initially because, you do it when you go shopping yourself. Like a guy, you see a nice necktie, and the clerk says, would you like to try it on, sir? Or try it against this shirt. Say, no, I'm just looking at you. Or you might, I haven't got time. The real reason is you don't want to spend any money. The real reason is you don't want to be sold. So you are resisting the sales process. Or they might tell you something, but it's not the real reason. That's the top of the iceberg problem. We want to get under that iceberg to the real reason. What's the real issue for them? That means we've got to be very, very good at listening. Selective listening is where I'm just listening for what I want to hear. And it's the same problem as ignore, but you're a little bit better as a listener, but you're still missing the nuance. You're still missing the key points of what is really the situation for them. Where are the real critical issues for them? So we've got to really stop mentally thinking about what we're going to say. If they say something that's interesting, just jot it down on a piece of paper as a memo to yourself, and then keep listening. And then later you can check your notes. Oh yeah, I need to talk about that. And don't jump in, let them finish. So another problem is people do not arrange the follow-up immediately. You have the meeting, you go through. Now Japan, of course, is a culture where there's lots of people who are going to be involved in the final decision. The ringi seido goes around, gets all the hanko, all the chops on it before it gets agreed to internally. So it's very rare in a meeting in Japan that anyone can give you a yes answer on the spot, unless it's a company owner. So particularly now with COVID-19, where it may be hard for them to contact everybody, it might be hard to get everyone's agreement. So you've got to understand that that decision will not come out immediately. There'll be a break, a gap. And so people say, okay, well, send us your proposal or send us some material. And you say, okay, I'll do that. And then you walk out the door. Big mistake. You've got them either on the phone or in the room. At that moment, you say, so I'm going to send you some material, or I'm going to send you the proposal. How is your schedule next week or the week after? Oh, I see. Next week is good. How about say a Monday or a Thursday? Oh, no good. What day would be good? Oh, Wednesday. Okay. Would morning or afternoon suit? Which is better? Afternoon. How about 3 o'clock? Oh, 3 o'clock's no good. What time would be good? 4:30. Okay. I will contact you at 4:30 next Thursday. So you've on the spot, while you've got them there, you've booked the next meeting, because what happens is, if you don't lock it down now, you say, yeah, okay, I'll send you the materials. I'll send you the proposal. You go away, send it, and then you have trouble contacting them because nothing's arranged. They're busy. You can never get through on the phone. They don't answer emails. It's a nightmare. So while you've got them, arrange the next meeting. Don't wait. Also, this one, slamming the square peg in the round hole. Sometimes you shouldn't be selling to that client. They are not your client. They are not a buyer. But when you've been suffering through COVID-19 and not making sales and not getting commissions, you start to imagine everybody's a client. You become desperate. Clients smell desperation. They also smell push. Oh, this is a pushy salesperson. I don't like being pushed. Everyone likes to buy, but nobody likes to be sold. And here you are, push, 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 sell, 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 trying to sell them. They don't want that. They want to buy, but they don't want to be sold. You've got to realize, if this is not the client for you, don't waste any more time with that client. Say, well, thank you very much. This obviously isn't the right time at the moment. I will catch up with you in the future. Keep well, stay safe. Thank you very much. And then move on and find a client who's a better match for you. But often salespeople think by dint of strength of will, they can somehow will the client into buying. Ridiculous idea. It's never, ever going to work. Know when to walk away, cut your losses, and move on and find a client for whom your solution is a much better match. And so another one here is losing track of the clients. We meet clients all the time. We're contacting clients, and then, they go into, we're going to think about it, and we keep moving. And maybe they do think about it, they decide not to buy, or you just get too busy to go back and check, or maybe something gets lost, you know, you get phone tag and you just get busy and you keep moving forward. And what happens is that whole effort is now lost because you didn't have a good system of tracking that client and your interactivity with them, be it on paper, be it electronically, be it a diary. You need something that means you never lose track of that client. Now, a client says no today. No, we can't do it. That doesn't mean it's no forever. It's today to your current offer with its current price point at the value you've attached to it in this cycle with this amount of cash flow, with the head office thinking about where they're going as a company. Could be many factors saying no today. No point ringing them up in 3 months, though. Things won't have changed enough. But there's no point going back in 12 months either, because your competitor may have come in and they've had a change of policy inside the company. Their economic situation has changed, the market situation has changed, something's changed in the personnel, and they are now open to that solution that you had, but you're not around. So somewhere, there's no magic exact point here, but somewhere 9 to 12, maybe 6 to 12 months after you've had that no, somewhere in that period, you should be going back to them. Saying that 6 to 9 months could be good, just to make sure, to see if there hasn't been a change. So don't lose track of clients who've said no in the past or you've just lost touch with. Don't give up on them, come back. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is only talking about the features. Now, you know, technical people particularly, they love the spec, they love the data, they love the detail, they love the measurements, the weight, the guarantees, the, you know, the quality aspects, all that stuff, all great, all fantastic. But we don't buy those things. We buy what your solution, be it a physical product or a service, will do for us. That's what we buy. You know, it's the classic of the DIY center. You go down, you buy a hand drill. You're not buying a hand drill. You're buying a hole of a certain millimeter or centimeter size in soft wood, in hardwood, in brick, in stone, in metal, in whatever the surface may be. That's actually the benefit that we're buying. The fact that it's got a powerless cord, that it's got a battery life of so many hours, it's got interchangeable drill bits, that it's got a warranty. All that stuff is just the detail. We're buying the whole. And so if we think about that, what is the thing that your company does in terms of your solution that gives a benefit to the buying company? That's what you want to talk about. Yes, you talk about the features, but don't just talk about the features. Get up and move up the scale. Talk about, now, this is what these features will do for you. This is the benefit, but don't stop there. A lot of people just stop there. Oh, this is the benefit of that. Okay, great. But how can they, in their company, use that benefit inside their company? How can they apply the benefit of the features inside their company? And this is where you come up with some evidence. You give an example of another company who had a similar issue and you supplied the same solution or a similar solution, and this is how they applied it in their company to see the application of the benefit. And then you go into a trial close. How does that sound? Does this sound interesting? Do you think this would help you? To see what's their reaction to what you've just talked about in terms of the solution. And if they come up with pushback, here's the golden rule on pushback. And this is the bonus point, right? This is 10.5. When anyone ever says to you, no, we're not going to buy it. When they reject you, the first words out of your mouth should be a cushion. Oh, okay, I understand. Yes, I can see, that you're thinking about cash flow at the moment. Whatever it is they say, you say yes. That's a little cushion, because now your brain has to say, that's right, Greg. Don't try and push again on the product. You've already done that. They've rejected you. Don't try and argue with the client. What you've got to go to now is ask the vital question. After the cushion, which to give you a little bit of thinking time, you say, that's right. I don't try and argue with the client. I don't try and justify what I've just said. I say, would you mind telling me why that's a problem at the moment? Would you mind telling me why cash flow is an issue at the moment? You ask them why. Now, as soon as you ask them why, they have to justify why they're not going to buy. The reason they give you, it's too expensive. May I ask why you say that? That was a headline. When we look at a newspaper in the morning, it's got a headline, and there's a long article describing that headline. That headline doesn't give us enough information. We want the full article. When you ask, may I ask why you say that? They've now got to give you the full article, and we wait, because in their explanation, we might find out misinformation, incorrect information, insufficient information, or they're actually after something we've got that's not what we've been talking about. So now you've got an angle. You know which way to come back to the client from. The 10.5 is, when you get a rejection, when they say it's too expensive, cushion it. Well, yes, how we arrange the budgets is very important in companies. Not a statement anyone's going to argue with. May I ask you why you say it's too expensive? And then shut up and listen, and then regroup and think about how you will be able to go back and answer that question. So, again, all free for you on iTunes, on YouTube. If you'd like to get into any of those programs, they're free. Also, if you go to the Apple Store, there's a Dale Carnegie Golden Book, all Dale Carnegie's principles, that's free. And if you're interested in live online courses, we're doing a lot of live online courses at the moment, obviously. We're also going back in the classroom from the end of June. But if you want to power up your virtual team or your virtual leadership or your virtual effectiveness, we've got a number of programs there. And we also have some coming up, some in Japanese, some in English. One later on this week, a Just a Change on Thursday. Actually, that's coming up. We've got goal setting accountability, a Just Change again on the 3rd of July. And then we've got Lead Change Effectively in English on the 31st of July. And quote from Dale Carnegie, most of us have far more courage and we've a dream we possessed. In COVID-19, in the sales business, we've always understand we have more courage than we possess. We just got to get our attitude right and go get it. And I'm going to help you. There's some contact information. Contact at dale-carnegie.co.jp, 0345631963. And the 10 people who contact me on LinkedIn or Facebook tonight, of the people who contact me, 10 people will be selected at random, and I will give you a free copy of my book, Japan Sales Mastery, because you've given up your time tonight to listen to me. I do this also as a thank you to Jason for organizing this for his members, for his tribe. And so I'm going to now hand it over to Jason and then probably David to pick up the threads of it. And I will look forward to talking to you all for the questions, which will come at the end of the program. If you've got concrete questions, love to hear from you. So Jason, I'm going to stop sharing and it's going to be back to you.
Thanks very much, Greg, Dr. Greg Story. I appreciate that. That's some good insight there. If anyone's got any questions, jot them down. We'll get David to talk next, but you can also put something in the chat. Questions about sales during this time, questions on anything that Greg mentioned. Let us know your thoughts. And I can't see names here. I can't see David Sweet there, but I think you're still here, David, are you?
Still here.
There he is.
Got it?
So does everyone know David? David's been here a long time, not quite as long as Greg, but longer than me. I'm 17. How long have you been here?
20 years.
20 years. So some old timers here. And as David will explain, he's not in the sales training business at the moment, but he has been. And in fact, I think the first time I met him, he was still doing that. That was 2006, I think.
Yep.
So among other things. So thanks very much. Take it away, David.
Great. Thank you. And thank you to Custom Media. Thank you, Jason, for hosting us. And Greg, thank you for everything. That's a lot of information. Fantastic. So tonight I'll probably just highlight a couple of items that Greg had already put out there. As far as my background, I'm the founder and CEO of an executive search company called Focus Core. So my day job is recruitment. But for 20 years, I've been dedicated to helping CEOs hire exceptional people and for individuals to realize their ambitions and potential and land sweet jobs, and as a recruiter and a certified executive coach. So a lot of what I do in my day job is working with sales professionals, helping them improve their life by either getting better at sales or by being a recruiter for them. And then I also run 3 sales teams. So in talking about sales in COVID-19, post-COVID-19, it's quite a challenge for all of us. So what I'm going to do is talk about 4 things tonight. Basically, there are parts that Greg has already talked about, but I think in this COVID-19 situation, we need to dig deeper as salespeople. The market changes drastically. So just what we are used to doing on a daily basis is not the norm and won't help you reach your sales anymore. So the 4 things that I look at, that I boil it down to for my team to keep it simple, is mindset, strong relations, self-development, and working harder. So just as an example, I'm working as an executive coach for a young saleswoman named Hiroko. And she is, in a normal market, an exceptional salesperson, doing ad sales. She's been able to, hit her targets. And when the market froze up, she called me up and started wanting some coaching. And one of my principles is when the market's tough, self-development is something that you need to do. You need to be working on your sales, your time management, your motivation. So after this webinar, you should all call up Greg and sign up for training. It's just very, very important to do in times like this to increase your skills. So Hiroko had done that already. And then the other thing that she had done was build on strong relationships. She has good relationships in the market, but she realized that she needed to be more visible. Before, she was using the telephone, networking, trade shows. All those are going away. And after we start going back to the office, who knows what that will look like. And so she needed to really find out how she could give value to her clients. And that was through getting very active in social media, through webinars, through blogs. A lot of things that you see Greg Story doing with his podcasts, with his blogs, webinars, all those things, that's just sales 101. And during this time, if you're not out and visible in social media, it's going to be very, very difficult. And Hiroko was able to get very active on Twitter, and that's in Japan quite a good source. She also took a webinar on how to use Twitter better and build up her network, and had courses on that. And then from there, the other thing that she was doing was she was trying to work harder. But what she needed help on is really, what did she need to change during this time? Because that's something that you need to look at. It's not just, Greg said it earlier on his first slide, it's just not about going and meeting people that are not buying. And it's not going and trying to do more cold calls. That's not going to do it. So what Hiroko and I did was we sat down and we looked at what her sales funnel was. What were the KPIs? It wasn't the KPIs that her boss had laid down, but what were the KPIs that were really going to lead to her sales? And for her, it was thinking backwards. She was doing sales. From there, it was for RFQs, and then from there, it was her belly to bellies. So we called the face-to-face meetings in Florida was belly to bellies. And then how many calls did it take to get to that? And so we just worked those numbers backwards. And we took basically the Steve Chandler, who's a very good motivational writer. If you don't know him, take a look at his 100 Ways to Motivate Yourself. One of the things that Steve points out is that you take your goal and you double it. And so what we did with Hiroko was we took those numbers and what it was normally taking for her to hit that sales, how many RFQs, how many belly to bellies, how many calls did it take to get those meetings? And we just doubled the numbers to see how that worked. And what she found was that she was able to hit 105% of target over the last month in a bad market. And it was just super important. So I think the four things that I would point out again is having a strong mindset. You need to be able to sit down and think to yourself, even in a bad market, you can make sales. You need to fish where the fish are, but you have to know that you can make a sale. If you're sitting at your desk at home and you're thinking this is just too hard, then you are not going to make it. You're just going to wash up. This market is way too damn hard if you have a mindset that thinks that you're not going to be able to make a sale. You have to have that mindset, and you need to be smart enough to figure out where those sales are going to be. So for Hiroko, she knew that all of her clients that were in the hotel industry, that was all gone. But she was also realized that she's into biking and that people were doing a lot more sports. And so she was able to go and talk to a lot of athletic companies, and she made a lot of sales with companies that are selling bikes. So it's about having that mindset. Again, it's about having strong relationships. Now more than ever, you got to be on social media. And then you have to do self-development. Again, the three things: sales, time management, motivation. In this market, you're going to get shot down a lot. You need to have something that's going to motivate you and keep you going. And then work harder. Take a look at what your key metrics are, and then look at how you can make those. For us in recruitment, we have a very simple process for how we make a placement and how many offers it takes to make a placement, how many meetings and how many CVs we introduce to clients. And if I just follow those same numbers in a good market, I know that I'll make a sale. But I know that in this market, it won't work. Those numbers have to be tweaked. So if you're thinking that you need to work less in this market, it's not going to happen. So those would be the kind of four things that I would recommend for you this evening if you're going to be selling in this very, very challenging market. I've been through tough times in Japan in 2001 and after Lehman shock, and now, and I've been able to thrive in all of those markets. And so I think the things that Greg and I are saying tonight, you need to put them in practice. And if you do that, you will find that you can make it through. People are buying, and people will continue to buy. It's going to be harder to do than it was before. So you just need to be smarter than you were doing it before. So that's what I got for you, Jason.
Thanks very much, David. I appreciate that. And let me kick off the questions while I've got one in my mind about the COVID-19 situation. I've heard rumours that because everyone's working from home, that also means decision makers are working from home, and Maraguchis and people you would like to speak to, influencers in the sales process. Have either of you noticed through yourselves or your people you're talking to in your businesses, have you noticed
Jason,
that's truly the case? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you heard me? I can't hear Greg, who seems to be
Okay,
talking.
can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
Greg, you were automatically muted. You want to unmute and speak.
Okay, so could you just repeat that again, please, Jason? What's the question?
Right. So I've been hearing that because everyone's working from home for COVID, that it's potentially even easier to get through to and set appointments with remote appointments with decision makers, influencers, Maraguchis in companies, and that this is a time to up your game and up your activity to at least attempt to create a touch point with the clients you're getting with, because they're easier to get hold of because they're at home with less to do.
Is there anybody out there? Jason, Greg,
Hello?
are you there? I can see
I'm
you,
here.
Greg.
I'm here.
Are you guys
Can you
able
hear me?
to Jason's question or not? This is Robert.
I can hear Jason. I can hear the question.
Okay.
So
If we have any questions, Greg,
Yeah.
you got, can you
yeah,
unmute, Greg?
there was a question from Jason from one of the viewers tonight about working from home, making it easier to get to the decision makers. And I would agree with that, because often what happens in Japanese companies is the lowest level junior person is the one picking up the phone, and they are not very helpful normally. They won't put you through the boss. They try and get rid of you. But the gatekeepers are no longer in the office. They're at home too. So if you've got the direct number to the client, then bingo, yes, you can get through. The problem is, and I've had this happen to myself, I've rung the company because I only had their company number. I didn't have their mobile number. So you ring the company and there's somebody there and they don't put you through. So, you get blocked if they're there. If you've got the mobile number, though, and you can get through, yes, they're more available. They tend to be more interested to find out what things can help their company. But we still got the gatekeepers are still there. They're still a problem. So I would say yes and no. I've had success and I've had some difficulties of getting through. That's over to you, Jason.
All right. I hope everyone can hear me. If you can't hear me, some great advice on the chat there. Refresh your browser. It doesn't kick you out and you have to log back in. It logs back in automatically. But make sure to accept audio and microphone, etc. So David's back. Good. So thanks for that. Yeah, my question was for David and for anyone else who may not have heard and now can. With people working from home, is it easier to get hold of people? Just as Greg's example there, when you have someone's direct mobile and you can't get them through the front door, you can often get straight to them. They're quite happy to speak to you. In this case, I'm sort of asking both David and Greg, are you hearing that it is easier than normal to get an appointment, a virtual appointment with decision makers, because they're spending so much more time at home?
For myself, Jason, I think it's been super easy. And the other thing is, it's been easy to just call up and find out how people are doing and showing just that you care with customers that you're working with and spending some time with them.
Yep.
And so I think just spending quality time with customers now has been much, much easier. And then been doing virtual coffees and virtual lunches as well. I think for cold calls, on the whole, it's been easier as well. And surprisingly, a lot of people are still in the office, so I've been able to get people in the office.
All right, so we have another question from the group. Question for Greg, but I guess David as well. How do you follow up without being too pushy, especially when a client's not responding, maybe ignoring you?
Yeah, thank you, Jason. So the question about follow-up without being too pushy is a tricky one. And I tend to think that, like me, they're getting tons and tons of emails. So it may not be they're actually trying to get rid of you, they're just busy. In Japan's case, often they do want to get rid of you. And that's a nice way of doing it, very subtle, but by not responding. So I tend to try and call if it's possible. I never fail to leave my name, a number, and a message. I never fail, because that way there's at least a chance they'll hear that I've called. I go, oh, yeah, I didn't get around to calling him back. I've been busy. I will call him back. And then I send an email. And then I'll wait a couple of days. If I don't get a reply, I will copy into that original email and a follow-up email. So I just keep adding the pressure of no reply. And I send 3, and then I tend to stop, because I think after about 3, if they're not interested, 4 is not going to make the difference. If they have been busy or they've been, just otherwise distracted, somewhere in that first 3, you'll get hold of them. And it may be that square peg in the round hole problem, that in fact they're not interested, but they don't want to be confrontational. They're not going to come back with a clear no. They're just going to let it glide. And so move on and find someone else who's potentially a better fit for you, for your particular product in the market at the moment. But that's how I would do it. But I definitely call, definitely leave messages, start the emails, and just keep adding to them. But after 3, I think, well, 4 is not going to be the game breaker, If they don't do it by 3, it's not going to work. So I stop there and put my focus somewhere else.
I'd say a couple of things with Greg on that. I think first and foremost, I think most salespeople don't actually even get to 3. So most of the time, if I find with the salespeople I work with, they'll do 1, maybe 2 times. So if you're doing 3, your chances of them at responding, they'll get it, and they'll respond to you. I also think I agree with Greg wholeheartedly that if you're flogging a dead horse, you might as well go somewhere else and fish where the fish are, and really try and get clients that way. And then the third thing that I'll do with a mail when I'm about ready to give up is I'll ask them, is this a bad time, or are you just trying to say no right now? I just want a conversation, and I don't care if the conversation's no. I just want an answer. So I will ask a pretty direct question, like, are you just not interested now? Am I just catching you when you're busy?
Makes sense. So a couple of people, I guess, are calling in from internationally, and from Amit in Sri Lanka. If you check the chat, he's asking, is there any specific advice in reaching Japanese buyers through emails and LinkedIn in terms of sales, I guess, but also based on the cultural practices and differences? What you guys would say to that?
I think recruiters do a ton.
David, go ahead.
Recruiters do a ton of work on LinkedIn, too much so it's a ton of noise for people receiving notes on LinkedIn. So I just think you need to give value, and that's where when you're doing blogs and you're writing and you're putting information out for people and letting them come to you, it's much better, because then they'll see you as a thought leader. If you look at how much Greg's putting out into the world, people will know that he's a thought leader, and they go straight into that, right? So if he sends anyone a LinkedIn note, they'll respond to him. They're not going to see that as one of other 50. So I think you really need to be quite active. It's just not sending a mail. That's just like cold calling, and it's a waste of time.
Yeah, I agree with the LinkedIn thing. I mean, I've got 24,000 followers on LinkedIn. You can imagine I'm getting constant barrage of investment offers, people trying to sell me stuff, people wanting to coach me. I've just a broad range of things. I ignore them because I don't know who these people are. And so, the same with emails from people I don't know, and particularly for Japanese buyers, they're very reluctant to get into any sort of conversation with people they don't know. I get a lot of people check me out on LinkedIn, as David said, because I'm very active. They will go and see who I am. They'll look at my resume. They'll see that every day I'm posting blogs. They see the content of the blogs. They see that there are podcasts. They see that there are videos. They see the content. They realize this is not propaganda. This is basically value, trying to give value. If you're overseas, you're trying to crack the Japanese market, it's extremely, extremely tough because people are resistant these days. We're suspicious of people we don't know. We're bombarded by people we don't know. So I think it's very hard. I think if you can send, as David said, what's something of value? Something of value. I will look at things on LinkedIn where people have copied something that I think is interesting. And therefore, I'll know that person who copied that thing that looks interesting exists. And if they then follow up with me, I'm probably more likely to look at it than just out of the blue LinkedIn post, because I'm getting so many every day, and so is everyone else. Facebook's the same, just constant. On Facebook, it tends to be very attractive girls wearing very skimpy outfits for the main part, all trying to connect with me. But apart from that, not much useful business coming across.
Makes sense, and I think I'd probably say in that regard, as a proactive user of LinkedIn since 2004, it's not a target shoot sprint here. If you're trying to do that, absolutely, it's going to be difficult. It's a marathon, and in the game of the social web, a marathon means visibility, activity, trust. And being an authority, as David was saying. So start building the well before you're thirsty if you're going to be attacking the Japanese market from outside, and start looking at how you can be visible, interesting, and talking about the types of subjects that your target market are interested in, so they know you at least are someone that they might like to speak to. But also, it also means, if you're just starting out, if that's not the case, that the massive action that is required when you begin a new job as a salesperson or a new industry that you're in, you have to build that network, and you have to get out there and make massive amounts of contact in as personable way as possible before you start getting opportunities to create trust and create relationship, and that goes double when you're trying to do it from another country into Japan. Actually, Nils had a question. Not a question. Nils used to be a country manager of a expert network company here, among many other things, and he said it's as in chat, it's important to let people know that you're in Japan. Companies put value on that sort of being here. If you're from outside the country, that's going to be hard. But if you are here, make sure they realise that they don't completely write you off. But Nils, do you want to unmute yourself? We're not muting everyone automatically at the moment as we're multiple people speaking. Nils, do you want to unmute yourself and say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that you already highlighted it very good. So I found it very annoying when I get calls from companies that are not in Japan or trying to sell me something over the phone. Most of the times those companies do not have the understanding of the Japanese culture and environment. So it's like they're just trying to call somebody up and hoping that they by chance find somebody that they can sell the product to. So it does help if the companies are not located in Japan. I would strongly suggest that they have a very good understanding of the Japanese business culture, so that they're not just blindly calling up numbers in order to get through to somebody. This will increase the likelihood that you actually get the sale closed. If you know the Japanese environment and you let the companies know that you are in Japan, your business is Japan, you know the Japanese culture, then they're more likely to get engaged with you. That is especially important for traditional Japanese companies. Foreigners are usually more open, they're more engaging, but Japanese companies, usually the first question they ask would be like, how long is your company already in business? Is it longer than 3 years? Or are you a completely new company? And so that's what I wanted to add to the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Niels. And question from Jojo in there as well to the guys. I mean, a general question: how do you find new and more leads, even though you can't get out there and meet people? And even post-COVID, how do you generate new leads for new sales, new business development, the hunter stuff?
Yeah, I think I'll have that one. It's very difficult because most networking events that are held online are very one-directional. There'll be a group of presenters, a moderator, some Q&A, with no opportunity for interactivity amongst the participants, which in a normal environment, you'd go to a networking event, you could exchange meishi, you could build up. And I'm an inveterate networking event attender. Probably many people on this call would have met me at a networking event. And I am also someone who's very much in the tradition of working in the room. I will try and meet every single person in that room that I can, because I don't know which one is going to be the potential buyer. But if I'm in these online networking events, webinar events for these chambers, I can't do that. And so what can you do? I think, as we discussed before, just doing a search on LinkedIn and hitting people up on LinkedIn, well, it certainly doesn't work with me when people try it with me, and I presume it's going to be the other way around. I would try and mail something to the target if you have someone in mind, because the people who are normally the blockers will not block the mail, they'll block the phone call. If you don't have an email address, you try and find the company, you may have trouble getting in touch with them, so you could send something physical that's got some value to it. You could also work with the existing network and try and get recommendations of people that in your existing circle of contacts that you know may know of someone who would be able to benefit from a particular solution. Because a lot of us are aggressive to bring up new solutions to problems in the light of COVID-19. We were doing 100% in-classroom training up until March. Then from April, we started doing live online training. So that was not something that was very much before. And then suddenly we pivoted. And you'll probably find that a lot of companies like that they were doing something before, and now they're offering something different. And your contact may not be aware of that, but you actually pivoted. You've got something additional now. Something new has been developed, like this particular platform we're working with tonight for telework. And so this is where you can find through your existing network opportunities to get recommended to talk to people. It is very tough at the moment, I know that, but that, I would think, target people you think could become a good contact, send them something by mail, and then they'll either maybe going back into the office now, or it may get sent to them at home, and then you get a chance to have a direct contact with them. That would be my advice. David, you might have something additional to that.
Yeah, a couple of things that we do different. One of the things that I see with most of the salespeople I work with is that the companies have super databases already, and they're not actually contacting the people that are warm calls. They're just letting those people just go by the wayside. So you're trying to build up a new database instead. So I think it's utilize what you have there on your CRM. Put together a newsletter that way and give value. The other thing is every time you talk to someone, ask for referrals. And if you need to give things away that your company can give away, then do that, especially for referrals. If Greg's a great model for us. I mean, he's giving away books, and that just generates more leads, right? So that's a great model for what you should be doing to generate new leads that way.
And just from my point of view, that leads into the next question, which is about how to get past gatekeepers and again how to cold call is referrals, which in the traditional sense is a pretty hard thing. I mean, who do you know who I could call who might also be interested in my product or service is a hard question from the old days. But these days, you can ask a much softer question, which results in a similar level of trust building. Who do you know who I should speak to? I'm networking with people just like yourself. Who do you know who I should speak to build my network in the shipping industry or whatever industry you're in? Once someone already likes and trusts you just a little, and they make that introduction, then that is quite a strong indicator that that person will respond to your request. So Viswa had asked this question, and he's asked it again. How do you get past blockers in the sales process? And before you get in there, Dr. Greg, I would say if it's not working, if you're asking that question because you've been hit a blocker, then look at every single person you have who's connected into that company, that industry, that company, the departments and the people in the departments of that company that interest you, and people in the roles that you want to get connected to. Who do you know already in those who are already connected to those areas, and how can you network with them? Reach out to them in a non-threatening, not all about you kind of way, saying you're networking with people exactly like them, and build that network, not 10 or 20 people, but 100, 200 people around that company, that industry, in that company that you want to get to, and then move through a normal relationship building process with any one of those contacts that respond to you, and be focused on them first, you second, and when the situation or the conversation comes up, how they can help you, then you can start networking towards that company, that person that you want to speak to, in a trusted, already demonstrated you care about them and not just yourself kind of way. So that would be my first thought to how do you get past a blocker to someone you want to speak to.
Yeah, I'd add to that too, Jason. Call the key person you want early in the morning. Most of the blockers are type of 9 to 6 workers. They generally tend to be young females in Japan whose job it is to pick up the phone and get rid of salespeople and not get them connecting with her boss, who's usually a man, usually. So if you ring before they get to work, and you'll find these days, people are starting to go back to the office now, but a lot of bosses will start early, and they'll also work late. So you ring after 6, and then you may get one of the boss's colleagues who will transfer you in the morning or late, or ring after 1 o'clock in the midday, because the blocker is normally stuck in the office while everyone else goes out to lunch. A lot of Japanese companies have a rule that says you must take lunch between 12 and 1 o'clock. Crazy as it sounds. So that person, the blocker, has to stay there in the office while everyone else has gone out. Then they go and have lunch between 1 and 2. So if you're in between 1 and 2 and they're on lunch, you might get straight through to the boss. Or it's another colleague who's not tasked to get rid of you may put you through to the boss. So ring early, ring between 1 and 2, and ring late. The other thing is that thing about the mail piece. You send something in the mail. The blocker will probably put the mail piece on the desk. This happens to me all the time. I come back from meetings, there's a piece of mail on my desk put there by my secretary, and I open it up. If it's got some useful research in there, some useful surveys in there, something about an industry, something that's a guide to something I'm interested in, then I'll appreciate that and I'll think highly of that person. So when that person calls, they can refer to that. I'd like to speak to Mr. Jason Ball, please. Who is it? My name's Greg Story. I'm from Dale County Training. I just want to check with Jason whether the package arrived okay, not got broken. Would you mind just putting me through so just make sure it got through okay? That sort of conversation is more likely to get you through. Now, it's hard with blockers. There's a French company, not a big company. Everyone's working from home. I only had the phone number of the office, but I knew the names of like 4 people in the senior echelon, the president, CFO, head of IT, blah, blah, blah. And yet I'm talking to the blocker and I said, look, I'd like to speak so-and-so. Are they there? No, they're not there. Okay. How about so-and-so? Are they there? No, they're not there either. Well, how about so-and-so? No, they're not there either. I went through the whole lot. They're not working. Oh, okay. Could you give me, I don't have their email address. Could you give me their email address? No. How about their phone number? No. So this is the sort of crazy stuff you get in Japan where the blockers think their job is some, castle guard, keep the riffraff out of the castle, So you've got to find ways to get around them. Go early, go late, go in there on lunch, send something in the package, and then ring up and ask about whether the package is broken or not, and try and get connected that way would be some of the ideas I've got.
Yeah, just 2 cents worth. I just think what Greg said is spot on. The other one I do is if I just make sure that the gatekeeper, I don't worry about it being a gatekeeper. I think the gatekeeper's idea is to get the right people in. So I just need to figure out how I'm the right person, whether that's a piece of mail that you're sending through or you're asking the right question in the right way. I think a lot of times we go in and we ask for a certain person and we're stumbling on our words, or we're not asking by a name correctly and giving our name correctly with some assuredness that this person would want to talk to us. So I think if you go in, and usually I'll just go and say, hi, this is Dave, and he's expecting my call. They'll say no, and they might block me, and I might go back in again the next day and say, we talked yesterday, he still hasn't returned my call. Why is that? Again, just kind of going through that. So gatekeepers, I find, let the right people in. I just think you need to be the right person to go through. So be clever about it.
Sounds good. There's plenty of sales training information out there about getting past the gatekeeper, and it's very relevant. Just put a spin on treating them like a real person, building a relationship with them if you can. That would be my input on that. So a question from someone who Hassan in chat. Someone who's a consultancy is helping companies set up their business in another country, in this case India, and they already are working with some, so they've got some track record here. How can they position themselves to connect with Japanese companies looking to enter the Indian market? So it's It's a visibility, branding / marketing, then sales question. David or Greg, would you have any advice for
I
such a
spent
company?
12 years doing market entry for Australian companies into Japan. So thinking about Japanese companies going out of Japan into India, what's very upmost in their mind is how to reduce risk. They don't know India. They don't know the people they're dealing with. They're cautious about it, but they have an interest. So this is where having really good quality information and providing it. Now, for example, when I was trying to tempt Australian companies to come to Japan, I would show them cities like Nagoya or Fukuoka or Hiroshima or Kobe or Sendai or Sapporo or, whatever, as an individual city. And I would show them the size of the market of that city state, if you think of it like that, relative to the Australian market size. So a company sitting in Australia would see that and go, well, that's only one city. It's not Tokyo, but it's a big market. I've never heard of Sendai. I've never heard of Fukuoka, or I've never heard of Kagoshima, or I've never heard of whatever, But they could see from the research they presented that that city alone was quite a reasonable sized market relative to the Australian market. And so by giving them that very, very specified research, that gave them some idea that, okay, this could be a good place to start. So if you flip it for India, India is a big place. They've got a track record already of doing market entry for Japanese companies in India. Got to play that up big time. You've got to think about what's the industries that they can be most effective in and work out, okay, where should this Japanese company go in India? Who would be some likely partners they should work with? Because, again, partner selection is a bit of a nightmare when you don't know anybody. And what you don't want to do is wind up with the wrong partner. So having an ability to vet partners for Japanese companies and only introduce a limited number of the best quality potential partners as a service will save that Japanese company a lot of heartache and a lot of time. And they'll appreciate that. So when you can show we can provide that role for you, you get to make the final selection. But based on your criteria, we'll do all the hard work. We'll sort it out. We'll give you the best quality possible partners. Then you can meet them and make your own decision. We'll give you different markets in India because there's lots of sub-markets in India where it might be the best fit for you. And then you refer to the business you've already done previously where you've been very effective for companies. You talk about what went right, what went wrong. Like, for example, I gave the 10.5, dastardly mistakes that people make trying to sell in Japan. Well, you could have, the 10 most common mistakes Japanese companies make trying to partner with companies in India. And you list them out and you go through in detail all the mistakes. And the person who's reading that goes, well, this person really knows what they're talking about because they've done it. It's obvious they've done it. They wouldn't come up with those points if they hadn't done it. So you're giving a lot of credibility. And then you've got the research, very detailed research. You give them a little document. They look at that. They go, credible, looks reliable, looks well informed, looks trustworthy. These are the sort of people we should have more of a conversation with. That's what I would do.
We got
feeds into what David was saying about building authority. It's not a sprint. It's not a sit back and throw a few stones and see if one hits. You got to put some solid effort and a long-term plan and then build. Right, David? Yeah,
I was just going to say for Focus Core, I mean, we have an office in Myanmar that's basically doing the same thing. It's market entry. And 80% of the companies going into Myanmar right now are Japanese. So for us, it's generally working close with the government and then working with the Japanese companies that we have. And just going through and making sure that they give us referrals to and as experts within that area. So I think if you have some companies already here that are happy with your service, then use them and they'll use you.
Yeah, and actually, I just so happen to, being a very visible and proactive Japan-based member of LinkedIn, who gets lots of contacts from people outside of Japan who want to do business in Japan. One of those companies was an Indian company that wants to set up companies and be their accounting and back office in India. And so what I did is what I suggest you do is you need to find a Japan-based local partner. And I did that. I introduced them to one. They set up a joint venture, and that company became the joint venture and named business of the Japan-based entity, and now does a lot of Japan-based accounting and back office because they are this Japan partner's face right there in India. So rather than a single sale or a lead generation or a local partner that fed leads, they literally became the face. And it was a very simple, I don't know whether it was 50-50, but a very simple merger and beneficial for both companies kind of thing. So think outside the box, build your reputation. Coming in as nobody's ever heard of you, especially countries like India, there's many Indians here who have lots of connections in particularly technology, but also in back office. So why should someone trust someone they've never heard of when they already know people and they could find someone they already trust? So build trust. And you can do that with some of the advice that David and Greg gave you, and work towards using your LinkedIn profile and any visibility you can gain from being an expert in your niche area. That the more niche, the better. The more you can leverage keywords of your strengths and your location and the benefit to the customer, the better. Get out there and let people know you exist. And then the conversation when sales and reaching out comes is going to be that much easier. All right. Any other questions? You can put your hand up. Let's try that. Does anyone want to put their hand up? That's the big hand in the left-hand bottom corner. Do you want to speak? And Rohit can put everyone on mute and then unmute that person or something like that.
Hello. Can you hear me? This is
Yes.
Mai. Yeah. I'm Mai. I'm from an IT company in Vietnam, but I'm based in Japan, and I'm in charge of Japan business for our company. So we have just established last year in Japan, and I can speak Japanese. But I really find it difficult for us to reach the decision makers in the networking event and associations. So do you have any recommendation for, besides cold calls and LinkedIn? I also try to connect through them, but I really lack of association or some kind of networking for just a CEO type or decision maker in Japan.
One idea for you is to create one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, especially in this time, how easy is it to get a Zoom and put together a CEO roundtable, limited to 10 of the best IT companies you want to work with, and invite them. But give those people value and get them into a room.
And let me take a step back on that wonderful idea, Mai.
Yes.
What about, how do you do that if you don't already have those connections? What if you opened an Excel and created a project for yourself? I'm going to identify 10 or let's say 5 people that I want to be speakers at this event that are going to attract the types of people and companies that I want to speak to. And then you start using research, and research on LinkedIn is fantastic, but it's not the only channel. There are many other channels and web-based research that you can do, and you can even pay for research, which is much less than you think. Companies like Teikaku Databank, you can buy things for like Niman, for lists of small amounts of companies and things like that. But there's also the concept of the process of going out and trying to get names of people, get through to contacts. You're going to, if you create a networking activity of yourself, an online networking activity where you pursue that and you get better. You don't have to know how to do it immediately, but you get better every day by doing it. And so if you want to network towards the CEO of a company, you look at the industry that company's in, you look at the company itself, you look at the people represented on LinkedIn, you do some Google searches, and you start trying to reach out to people and say, hi, this is who I am, this is what I do, I'm just networking. Make it low key, not all about you, and try and build a massive network towards networking towards that person. And then when it comes up in conversation naturally, after you've already built rapport, after you already have some sort of a connection and exchange with this person, and then it becomes your turn to say how they can help you. You can say, who do you know at this company? I'd love to speak to this CEO, but I'm happy to speak to anyone at that company. And then you do that over and over and over again, and you fill out your spreadsheet. This is the industries I'm targeting. This is the companies I'm targeting. This is the people in these companies. And you build a massive network by pursuing that one goal of creating this event, but of getting in touch with that one person, and so on, where you network on purpose, because it's a very busy world out there in the social web. But if you know where you want to go and you target your activities towards that and you capture that information, then you don't waste time going off and just randomly doing it. You focus. And even if you never put on that event that David just suggested, and let's face it, you actually could. You could say, look, I've already got 3. I'm not going to wait any longer. I'm going to go with 3. Even if you don't get there, you look at your spreadsheet. It's full of all these people. You've contacted 370. 212 responded. You had a reasonable exchange with 50. You now seem to have a relationship with about 24 people that you reached out with. You asked them how you could help them. You're starting to do that. They're starting to think, wow, it's my turn. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a proving the value before you ask for something in return kind of thing. And a target such as that. Everyone asks, where are the networking events for CEOs? I just go there and I just meet them. It doesn't exist. I mean, it might, but you don't get in there unless you're already one, unless you're already in the group. So it's the people who know the people you know. If you're not there yet, start one. Maybe your first very lame. This networking event is online. I have only done 3. Is it now? I normally do in-person networking events. It's not slick. We may have a recording, but it won't be slick. We just begin, because if you want to get from A to B and you're in a boat, if there's no wind, if you're not moving, it doesn't matter how far, how much you turn the tiller, how much you try and steer the boat, it won't go anywhere. Just move. Just start doing stuff and do it in an authentic, not all about you kind of way. Make it people. What's your value? And show genuine interest in other people, and then track that and build it. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I got some advice for my too. Vietnam has done tremendously well dealing with COVID-19. In fact,
yes, thank you.
Quite amazing to me. I see all these charts. So they talk about South Korea, they talk about China, they talk about Germany, they talk about New Zealand, they talk about Australia, they talk about Thailand. They never talk about Vietnam. Now, what are companies worried about? They're worried about stability. China is not stable from this COVID-19 or the next potential problem they might have, whereas Vietnam has got a track record of showing they are very, very capable of dealing with this type of issue. So you can have a stability of business continuity there. You've also got the Vietnamese embassy here in Tokyo. Japanese companies who are interested in Vietnam will contact the trade promotion organization within the Vietnamese embassy. they will also contact JETRO to try and find out who they can deal with in Vietnam. The Japanese embassy in Vietnam also has got people on their staff there who are trying to find Vietnamese companies who can partner with Japanese companies, because people are saying the supply chain risk with China is so great, we need to diversify. And Vietnam has a very well-educated, very high-tech oriented culture in the young people. And so that's an alternative to China. So there's a groundswell of interest in Vietnam. And you've also got a large population. You've self-sufficient in, I think you're the second largest rice producer in the world. You've got a lot of things going for you. So as we've talked about, companies have an interest. So if you're able to get JETRO, able to get the Vietnamese embassy, bring people up from Vietnam who can talk about some aspects of the target area that you're looking at, to talk about what's happening in Vietnam, you will pull an audience for sure. People will come to listen. And the JETRO and the embassy, they've got people who are being paid every day to facilitate these types of exchanges, and who've got their own networks. I worked for the Australian Embassy for 12 years. We had tons of Japanese team members in our teams. I opened the organization's office in Nagoya. I ran the operation in Osaka. I ran the operation in Tokyo, and then I ran Japan. Our Japanese staff had unbelievable networks built up over long decade periods of time. And your Vietnamese embassy and JETRO have got the same thing. You should be involving them. You should be putting on something yourself. Bring up some speakers. They will help you to organize a guest list. People will come because Vietnam is very sexy at the moment.
Thank you.
It is only going to get sexier. And when you talk about, come and find out how I think Vietnam, you had 0 deaths, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's now this is currently 0 deaths.
Right, 0 deaths, right? So how did Vietnam achieve 0 deaths from COVID-19, and why we're a stable partner for Japanese companies? Well, that's going to get their interest, right? But you never think about Vietnam on the news. I don't know why. Maybe because you're too far. You don't register enough cases on the bottom of the scale. Tell that story, and then link it to the IT that you got back there. My counterpart in Vietnam, Dale County, Vietnam, they got like 30, 40 people working there. And I was talking to Lynn Nguyen the other day. She's got like 5 IT people on her staff. 5. I don't have 1. It's just a different world. They're building their own apps. They're just so fantastic. But people don't know that. They're not aware of that. So you've got to get the message out there. You've got to tell people what you're capable of. Get some speakers, put together an event. It won't be very expensive, really. And then away you go.
Okay. Because personally, I want to also, we are doing IT, and we have been doing it for a lot of American company, a successful startup. And I'm thinking of how to share the experience in supporting American company in doing IT stuff. But a very good idea. I will contact with. I will have more contact to promote more the Vietnam appearance in Japan. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. And I'm aware that we're past the 8:30 mark. I hope everyone's okay that we're going a little bit further. Feel free to drop off. I appreciate everyone joining. I just wanted to ask a question both to David and Greg to see how it goes. In a very general sense, what advice would you give to someone who wants to do business in or with Japan, or what's in a professional sense? What advice for someone who is not already here, or who is struggling? He's here and struggling. What advice would you give him about doing business in Japan?
Well, I did this professionally, as I said, for 12 years. And the thing that always amazed me about Australian companies, I was dealing with Australia, obviously, was they often got into partnerships. The Australians got into partnerships with Japanese companies. They weren't the right fit. they would partner with a company that was too big for them, and they never really had the right balance, or they would get into partnerships by chance. I mean, honestly, the number of people I met who said they found the Japanese partner because they happened to be sitting next to each other on a plane is just extraordinary. That is not the best way to do partner selection. So what I would recommend is, again, as I said to every country has got a trade promotion organization. Most of them got offices in Japan. They've got deep connections here. They can help you with partner selection. They can weed out the people who are the wrong fit for you, give you advice, and help you that way. And also, the reverse is, if you're in Australia, you've got Japanese trade, like Jetro, for example. They're active outside of Japan as well. So that's a good starting point. Otherwise, pay people who are market entry specialists, because they will save you so much money by helping you make sure you don't get into bed with the wrong partner and you get locked in. One thing too I'd say is never, ever, ever agree to an exclusive relationship with anybody unless there are some milestones of production or revenue built into that agreement. Never give a blanket agreement with anybody that doesn't have some measurement in there that allows you to get out of it if the Japanese partner doesn't perform. But often people get starstruck. They see this big Japanese company. They're all thinking, we're going to be rich, you know. And they sign an exclusive arrangement, and then it never goes anywhere. And they think, gee, wonder why that was. Well, it may be that Japanese company has got their own existing business, the same industry you're in, and they don't want you in the market. So they'll just take you out by getting an exclusive arrangement and doing nothing, and then you're stuck because there's no time limit, there's no performance hurdles in there. Never sign anything unless there's performance hurdles and a time limit, that if you need to get out, you can. Be very, very rigorous on partner selection. Get people who are experts to help you. Use your governments to help you. And if you start with that approach, then you'll do much better. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I'd say contact me. We do market entry. So we'll either help you or we'll direct you in the right spot.
Excellent. And someone in the chat said, Jason, how much do you charge to introduce 5 to 8 IT managers? Well, contact me. General introduction, I'll do it for $99. Someone asked me that just the other day. That's where that figure came from. What will you give me for $99? And I said 10 introductions off the top of my head. Anyway, thank you for joining. We're after the 8:30 mark. You can, and I encourage you to connect with all of us if you're not already, and then use LinkedIn or any other method to ask us any additional questions. We're a community, you're part of it. How can we help you, and how can you help us? Thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks, David. Thanks, Greg. Both doctors, by the way. And also Robert and the Connect platform. Check out the Connect platform there. Thank you to Rohit and Jojo on the line here, and Teleworker. Take a look at Teleworker. It's a double-click way to create a remote working environment. Thanks very much.
Great.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
The next event is on the 10th of next month.
Thank you, Robert. And thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Keep well, stay safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.